Alright, I wanted to pop back on here and go over number 5 and also talk about one of your homework questions that you guys might struggle with. So we didn't get to finish example 5 in class, so let's take a look at it now. So example 5 asks us again to find all of the roots. So we should be getting 3 roots. Check and see if it's factorable. If we were to group this, I could take out an x squared, I'd be left with 3x plus 1. I can only take out a 1 here, or a negative 1, and be left with x plus 1. So this is not going to be factorable. So we have to list all of our possible rational roots, which would be factors of 1 over factors of 3. Factors of the last term over factors of the first term. Positive negative 1, positive negative 1, positive negative 3. Which when we simplify, that would be 1 and 1/3. So this one's actually kind of nice because we only have 4 answers that we need to test. So go to our y equals, we'll type this in. You could also do this by hand if you'd like. Go to our table, and we do see that negative 1 is an answer. I would always check and make sure that none of the other ones work. So positive 1 does not work. Check our 1/3 and our negative 1/3. So let's go to our graph. Zoom 6. Second, trace. Option 1 is your value. And you can just type in 1/3. It's not 0. Do it again. Check negative 1/3. It's not 0. So none of those work. This is my only rational root. Now, to find the other 2 that are either irrational or complex, I have to use synthetic division. Okay, so I have negative 1 with my original polynomial, 3, 1, negative 1, 1. My first term comes down. 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. We add down to get negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 1 is 2. We add down to get 1. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. And I know my job is done correctly because I got a remainder of 0. Okay? Now I'm left with 3x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 0. Fortunately, this is not going to be factorable, and the reason I know is because these were not factors. So I have no other rational answers. It's going to be irrational or imaginary. So I have to use my quadratic formula. So I'll put it up here, but you guys need to make sure you have this memorized. So we'll have 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times 1 over 2 times 3. So 4 minus 12 over 6. So I get the square root of negative 8, which can be reduced. And that's I square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which will get me 2i squareds of 2. And I can reduce my outside numbers because this is 2 6 plus or minus 2i squared to 2 over 6, and I can reduce those to be 1/3. So I'll get 1/3 plus or minus I squareds of 2 over 3. And then don't forget about your other answer that was up here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 3 total answers. All right, I also wanted to take a look at one of your homework questions because a lot of you are going to struggle on number 12. So for number 12 on your homework, if you want to pause the video and work on your homework and then come back to this if you need to. The thing that makes number 12 harder is that it's a quartic, so we should be getting 4 roots or answers. The directions say find all roots in this one. This is not factorable because
pardon the interruption, Mr. Chrisman, please dial extension 6503, Mr. Chrisman, 6503.
So we go straight to listing our possible roots, which would be factors of 12 over factors of 9. So our factors of 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Our factors of 9 are plus or minus 1, 3, and 9. And then you do have to come up with all the possible pairs of these. So all of those are answers, and then also 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 6/3, and 12/3, which some of those are repetitive because that's 4. And 1/9, 2/9, 3/9 is actually 1/3, so don't write it. 4/9, 6/9 would be 2/3, don't write that. And 12/9, which would be 4/3. So here are all of my possible rational roots for number 12 on the homework. Then we go to our graphing calculator, we type in our equation, and we see if we can find as many roots as we can that are in this list. Do not just find one. Oops. Go to my table first. So right off the bat, I actually can see 2 of them. X equals 2 is an answer. Excuse me, -2. And x equals 1 is also an answer. 3 is not 1. Kind of just scroll around and see. Obviously, these are just getting really big, so that's not going to work. Try your negatives all the way down to -12. That's not going to work. And if you look at the graph of it, I have my -2, my +1. I do have 1 there. That might be irrational and not rational. But if you want, you can check all of those. Now, if you don't want to have to sit there and check them all, we can just go straight to our synthetic division since we have 1 or 2 that work. Now, since we have 2 roots, we're going to do synthetic division twice. 1 at a time. So let's just start with the 1. We're going to divide it out of our original polynomial. So we'll have 9, 3, -30, 6, and 12. Perform synthetic division. Get my remainder of 0, so I know that I've done this correctly. If you get a remainder that's not 0, either that's not actually a factor or you divided wrong. Now, we've successfully divided this one out. What you're going to do is you're going to do synthetic division again with this new answer. Okay, so I'm going to put another box here, -2. And I'm going to do synthetic division again with my answer from this previous step. So I bring down my 9. I also get a remainder of 0. So I've taken this from a quartic at this step to be a cubic at this step to now it's a quadratic. So I have 9x squared minus 6x minus 6. Now, looking back up here, I probably could have taken a GCF out first, which is something you can do in the future if you like, you just didn't think about it at the time. But at this point, I can take out a GCF now to make my numbers a little bit smaller. Divide both sides by 3. Get rid of that. So we have 3x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. And now we can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula would be 2 plus or minus the square root of -2 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And we just need to simplify this. 2 plus or minus 4 Now again, you want to multiply all these things together. Negative 12 times negative 2 is a positive 24. Over 6. 2 plus or minus the square root of 28 sixths. Reduce the square root of 28 to 4 and 7, which will be 2 square roots of 7. And then we can reduce each of those numbers. 2 6 and 2 6 will become 1 plus or minus the square root of 7 all over 6. So that is my, over 3. I reduced that. 2 6 is 1/3, 2 6 is 1/3. So that should be 3. And then don't forget about the other two answers you found up here so that we have them all kind of in the same location. We should get negative 2, positive 1, and 1 plus or minus the square root of 7 over 3. So that's 1 answer, 2 answers, and 3 and 4. We'll check. There are my 4 roots.